This is Earl Nightingale, speaking to you from a quiet, mahogany-paneled studio, where the truths of life glow like a candle in a darkened room, casting light into the shadows of a world half asleep, calling to those who wander, who seek, who yearn to reclaim the sacred dominion of their own minds. Before we embark on this journey, a journey that may unravel the echoes that bind your soul, that may kindle a fire in the stillness of your thoughts, that may guide you to a freedom few ever know, I extend a solemn invitation to join our fellowship of awakeners. These are the souls who dare to question the thoughts they carry, who burn with the spark of awareness, who refuse to live as echoes in a world of shadows. If this message stirs your heart, if it lights a flame in the quiet of your chamber, I urge you to share it by subscribing to this program. Write to us, join our great conversation, and let us know you stand with us by leaving your mark of approval. Your voice strengthens this circle, and together we can forge a brotherhood of those who seek the truth, who speak the truth, who live the truth. Now, settle in, for we speak of a truth so profound, so radiant. It has been hidden in plain sight, feared by those who would keep you bound, yet waiting for you to claim it. In the next 40 minutes, my friends, you may reprogram your mind, not with effort, nor with struggle, but with the quiet power of choice. This is the whisper that becomes thunder, the key that unlocks your soul, the fire that can light your way. Will you hear it? Will you heed it? Will you become it? The choice is yours, and the moment is now. Let us begin. There's a truth, my friends, so ancient it seems to rise from the silence of the stars, so simple it cuts through the noise of the ages like a blade, yet so profound it shakes the heart with its clarity. Most men live not by their own thoughts, but by echoes, echoes of voices they never chose, echoes of a world that trained them to follow, to conform, to repeat. Their minds, meant to be forges of creation, have become chambers of repetition, filled with thoughts handed down like old garments, worn and tattered, yet worn without question. This truth began as a whisper, barely audible, passed from poet to sailor, from sage to farmer, from the quiet hearts of the wise to the bustling squares of ancient cities, until it grew, swelling like a river breaking free, resounding like a thunderclap, awakening those who dare to listen, freeing them from the chains of a mind unexamined. Picture a village, its streets cloaked in the soft fog of dusk, its people moving in step with the toll of a distant bell, their days measured by routines they did not shape, their lives guided by thoughts they did not plant. Into this village comes a stranger, his eyes alight with a fire that pierces the haze, his voice carrying a message that stirs the air like a wind before a storm. He speaks of the mind, not as a follower, but as a creator, a mind enslaved not by iron, but by echoes, a mind that can be freed by a single act of courage, to think. The villagers pause, their hearts quickening, their eyes lifting from the ground to the stars. But the keepers of order grow uneasy. These words, they declare, are too bold, too unsettling, too bright. They threaten the rhythm of the village, the certainty of its days, the silence of its conformity. And so, they hush the stranger. They urge the people to forget his words, to return to their plows, their looms, their ledgers, to let the bell dictate their lives, to let the fog of echoes settle over their souls. But truth, my friends, is not so easily silenced. It is like a seed that, once planted, cannot be uprooted, like a fire that, once kindled, cannot be quenched, like a river that, once loosed, cannot be dammed, like a star that, once risen, cannot be veiled. The stranger's words spread, whispered in the glow of hearths, shared in the quiet of fields, carried on the winds that sweep across oceans and plains, etched into the hearts of those who dare to listen. They reach the farmer, his hands deep in the earth, his heart stirred by the possibility of planting not just crops, but thoughts that could reshape his life. They reached the blacksmith, his forge alive with the scent of molten iron, his soul awakened to the vision of forging not just tools, but a destiny. They reached the poet, her pen poised above a blank page, her mind ignited by the call to write not just verses, but truths that awaken the world. They reached the sailor, his ship tethered to the harbor, his heart stirred by the dream of steering not just seas, but his own course. These words, once a whisper, became thunder, a resounding call that pierced the fog of conformity, that shattered the chains of repetition, that lit a fire in the souls of those who heard them. I shared a fragment of this truth years ago in a message called The Strangest Secret, when I said, we become what we think about most of the time, and that's the strangest secret. These words, so simple yet so profound, are the key that unlocks the mind, the spark that ignites the fire of awareness, the seed that grows into a life of freedom. They are the thunder that can awaken you, if you will hear them, if you will speak them, if you will live them. And so, I ask you, listener, do you hear that whisper in the quiet of your heart? Do you feel its gentle nudge, its persistent call, its promise of rebirth? Will you let it pass like a breeze through the trees, or will you let it become thunder, shaking the foundations of your life, lighting a fire that no darkness can extinguish? What is the prison, my friends, that holds most men captive, that dims their dreams, that binds their souls to a life of echoes? It is not a cell of stone, nor a chain of iron, nor a wall of earth. It is a prison of the mind, built of thoughts that were never yours, thoughts that grew like weeds in soil untended, thoughts that were planted by others and left unquestioned. The awakening from this prison begins not with action, not with ambition, not with the clamor of the world, but with a forgotten seed, the seed of awareness, planted deep within your soul at birth, waiting to be watered with courage, nourished with truth, lit with faith, tended with purpose. Yet how forgotten, how neglected, how buried deep this seed lies. Beneath the weight of habit, it waits, smothered by the fog of routine, dimmed by the fear of change, hidden by the blindfold of conformity. Picture a man, his days spent in a quiet village, his hands busy with tasks he does not question, his heart heavy with a longing he cannot name. He believes his thoughts are his own, yet they are echoes of schoolmasters who taught him to follow, of voices that told him to stay small, of hands that placed a blindfold over his eyes, so familiar it feels like his own skin. He lives his life, never realizing he is in a prison, never seeing that the door is open, never grasping that the key lies in the questions he fears to ask, never planting the seed that could set him free. This seed of awareness, my friends, is the treasure you already hold, the key to a freedom that is not of the world, but of the soul, the spark that can light the fire of your mind, the root that can grow into a garden of dominion. It is not found in distant lands, nor in the holds of ships, nor in the fields of others. It is in your mind, in your power to see the blindfold, to question the echoes, to choose your thoughts, to tend the soil of your inner world. Picture the sailor, his ship tethered to the harbor, his heart yearning for uncharted seas, yet believing his course must be set by others, never questioning the blindfold of habit, never seeing the open door of his own will. He sails without vision, and wonders why his journeys feel empty, why his soul remains a spark unlit, why his life feels like a room with no exit. Picture the poet, her chamber lit by a single candle, her dreams buried beneath the weight of routine, believing her words must please others, never questioning the blindfold of conformity, never seeing the key hidden in her own questions. She writes without fire, and wonders why her verses fade, why her heart aches for more, why her life feels like a prison she cannot name. Picture the blacksmith, his forge cold, his hands idle, believing his work must be small, never questioning the echoes that tell him to stay bound, never seeing the door that was never locked. He forges without passion, and wonders why his tools lack strength, why his soul remains barren, why his life feels like a chain he cannot break. The seed of awareness is within you, my friends, not in the world beyond. It is the courage to see the blindfold, the will to remove it, the faith to ask the questions that unlock the door, the purpose to plant the garden of your mind. Yet how forgotten this seed remains, buried beneath the dust of a life unexamined, smothered by the voices that tell you to conform, to repeat, to drift. The world would have you believe that awareness is dangerous, that a question is folly, that to awaken is to risk the comfort of sleep. But I tell you now, the wise know this truth. To live without awareness is to live in a prison, to walk with a blindfold, to drift in a fog you did not choose, to leave the seed of your soul unplanted. Picture the farmer, his fields alive with possibility, who does not seek freedom in the harvest of others, but in the courage to plant his own thoughts, nurturing the seed of awareness that blooms into a life of purpose. Picture the poet, her pen alive with truth, who does not seek beauty in the applause of others, but in the quiet of her own questions, planting seeds of awareness that grow into verses that awaken the world. Picture the sailor, his heart bold with the call of the sea, who does not seek freedom in distant ports, but in the courage to steer his own course, planting seeds of awareness that guide him to new horizons. The seed is in the blacksmith's will to rekindle his forge, in the poet's courage to write her truth, in the farmer's faith to tend his own soil, in your power to awaken, to choose, to live. And so, I ask you, listener, do you feel that seed within you? Do you sense its quiet presence, its gentle pulse, its promise of freedom? Will you nurture it, water it with courage, light it with truth, or will you let it lie dormant, buried beneath the weight of echoes? Will you open the door, or will you remain in a prison you only assumed was locked? This truth, this seed of awareness, is not new, my friends, nor is it hidden. It is as old as the mountains, as timeless as the tides, as eternal as the stars that guide the sailor's way, as enduring as the fire that burns in the forge of the heart, as steadfast as the roots that anchor a garden, as boundless as the river that seeks the sea. The wise of every age knew it, lived it, built their lives upon it, leaving legacies that stand like the pillars of ancient temples, like the verses of poets, like the fields that fed nations. The poets of old, their chambers lit by candlelight, their hearts alive with truths unvoiced, knew that as a man thinketh, so is he, that the mind is not a mirror, but a forge, that thoughts are the seeds of destiny. They wrote not just of beauty, but of eternity, and their lines became a constellation, a map for souls lost in the fog of repetition. The emperors of Rome, their hearts bold with vision, knew that their empires were not built with stone, but with thought, that to shape a nation was to shape a mind, that to dream was to create. They thought not just of power, but of legacy, and their works became a river, flowing through the ages, a fire that burned through time. The craftsmen, their hands skilled in the quiet trades of wood and iron, knew that their creations were not mere objects, but thoughts, thoughts forged into form, thoughts that shaped lives, thoughts that broke the chains of conformity. They thought not just of labor, but of mastery, and their works became a garden, blooming through generations, a testament to the power of the mind. Consider the sailor, his ship a vessel of dreams, his heart alive with the call of the sea. He knew that his course was not merely a path through water, but a journey of the mind, a steering by inner stars, a choice to think beyond the harbor. He thought not just of ports, but of destinies, and his voyages became a river, a testament to the power of thought, a fire that burned through the ages. Picture the blacksmith, his forge a sanctuary of heat and iron, his hands steady as he shaped tools that would serve his village. He knew that his work was not merely metal, but belief, that each strike of his hammer was a thought, that each tool was a victory over repetition, a seed planted in the garden of his soul. Picture the farmer, his fields a canvas of life, his hands deep in the soil, who knew that his harvest was not merely crops, but thoughts, thoughts tended with care, thoughts that grew into abundance, thoughts that fed the world. He thought not just of seasons, but of eternity, and his fields became a garden, a fire that burned through time, a river that flowed to the sea. As I said in The Strangest Secret, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. The wise knew this, my friends. They knew that their thoughts were the helm, the hammer, the seed, the fire, the lever that could lift them from repetition to freedom, from conformity to creation, from the fog of echoes to the light of purpose. They knew that to think is to create, to dream is to build, to envision is to become, to sow is to reap, to steer is to triumph. This truth was not reserved for the mighty, nor hidden from the humble. It was known to the farmer who thought of abundance and worked to make it real, planting a garden that fed his village. It was known to the poet who thought of truth and spoke it to the world, lighting a fire that burned through centuries. It was known to the blacksmith who thought of mastery and forged tools that shaped lives, sowing a seed that bloomed for generations. It was known to the sailor who thought of discovery and charted seas unknown, steering by the stars of his own mind. The wise were not different from you, my friends. They were simply awake, their minds alive with thoughts of what could be, their hearts bold with the fire of purpose, their hands forging a life of meaning. They spoke the truth, they lived the truth, they sowed the seeds, they kindled the fires, they steered by their own stars, and they reaped the riches of a life well lived. And so, I ask you, listener, will you join them? Will you think as they thought, dream as they dreamed, act as they acted, sow as they sowed, steer as they steered? If this message has stirred your soul, if it has awakened the visionary within you, join our fellowship. Write to us, share your thoughts, and let us know you're with us by leaving your mark of approval. Let us stand together as those who know the truth, as those who speak the words, as those who live the freedom, as those who forge the fire. Will you let the wisdom of the ages pass you by, or will you claim it as your own, planting the seed, lighting the fire, steering by your own stars? Will you think like the wise, or will you drift with the many, lost in the fog of echoes? Why, then, do so few awaken to this truth, while so many remain asleep, not creating but repeating, not steering but drifting, not forging their own destinies, but wandering in the fog of a life unchosen? The answer lies in the gentle cradle of the world, the systems that lull men to sleep, the soft chains that bind the soul to the rhythm of sameness, the gray blur of comfort that dims the fire of awareness. Picture a vast pasture, cloaked in twilight, where men and women move like a flock, their eyes open but their souls asleep, circling the same worn paths, their thoughts echoes of echoes, their hearts dim with a longing they cannot name, their fires unlit, their gardens unplanted. This is the sleep of the many, my friends, a sleep induced by the systems that surround us, by the repetition that dulls the mind, by the routine that binds the heart, by the comfort that buries the soul. The schoolhouse, with its rigid rows and dusty books, teaches you to repeat, to follow, to conform, not to question, not to dream, not to light the fire in your soul. It fills your mind with the echoes of others, with the blindfold of habit, with the chains of sameness, leaving your own garden barren, your own fire unlit. The workshops and fields, with their endless tasks and silent toil, demand your time, not your heart, rewarding those who drift without question, chaining your spirit to the tick of the clock, locking your soul in a prison of routine, a garden where no dreams grow. The village, with its quiet hearths and familiar paths, expects you to stay small, to repeat the lives of those before you, to let your dreams fade like stars at dawn, to let your fire dim, to let your garden wither. Consider the farmer, taught to sow the same seeds as his fathers, to follow the same seasons, to avoid the risks of change, to keep his fire hidden. The village depends on his harvest, and so he is told to stay predictable, to silence his visions, to let his garden grow weeds, to leave his fire unlit. He plows without question, reaps without passion, and drifts through life, his heart heavy with unspoken longing, his mind dulled by the bell's toll, his soul a spark unlit, a seed unplanted. Consider the blacksmith, urged to forge only what is needed, simple tools for the village, never the works of mastery that burn in his heart, never questioning the echoes that bind him. The village needs his labor, and so he is kept in place, his hammer striking in rhythm with routine, his creations fading like the iron he shapes, his spirit confined to the gray silence of duty, his fire extinguished, his garden barren. Consider the poet, taught to write only what is familiar, to please the crowd, to suppress the truths that stir within her, to let her fire smolder. The village needs her verses, and so she is bound, her pen moving in patterns not her own, her words fading like ink on forgotten pages, her heart a river uncharted, her life a garden unplanted. These systems, my friends, are like a soft cradle, rocking you to sleep, keeping you safe from risk but also from freedom, keeping you asleep while your dreams fade, while your fire dies, while your garden remains barren, your river uncharted. They lull you with the promise of comfort, of ease, of certainty. But comfort is the enemy of awareness, the thief of purpose, the chain that binds your soul to a life of echoes. These systems fear the awakened mind, my friends, for a man or woman who awakens is a force unstoppable, a flame unquenchable, a tide uncontainable, a star undeniable, a river unyielding, a garden unbreakable. They fear a farmer who questions his seeds, who might plant a garden that feeds not just his village, but his soul, who might kindle a fire that spreads. They fear a blacksmith who dreams of mastery, who might forge tools that inspire others to awaken, who might light a fire that burns through time. They fear a poet who writes truths, who might awaken souls with her verses, who might plant a garden that blooms for centuries. An awakened man or woman questions the schoolhouse, challenges the workshops, rewrites the village's rules, lights a fire that spreads, plants a garden that endures. This is why most remain asleep, my friends, because waking hurts. It is painful to open your eyes in the dark, to see the blindfold, to feel the chains, to hear the echoes of a programmed mind, to step into the unknown, to plant a seed in untested soil, to forge a new path, to kindle a new fire. The world would have you believe that sleep is safety, that to drift is peace, that repetition is home. But I tell you, as I said in Lead the Field, most people tiptoe through life, hoping to make it safely to death. Sleep is a prison, my friends, a fog where your dreams go to die, a chain that binds your soul, a garden that remains barren, a fire that remains unlit, a river that never finds its sea. The wise know this, and they choose to awaken, to think, to dream, to sow, to forge, to live. And so, I ask you, listener, will you remain asleep, or will you awaken? Will you feel the fire of this truth within you, or will you let it fade into the fog? If this message has stirred your heart, if it has awakened the rebel within you, Join our fellowship. Write to us, share your thoughts, and let us know you're with us by leaving your mark of approval. Let us stand together as those who refuse to drift, as those who speak the truth, as those who live the freedom, as those who kindle the fire. Will you let the cradle rock you to sleep, or will you awaken to the truth, planting your garden, lighting your fire, steering by your own stars? And now, my friends, we come to the heart of this truth, the seed that awakens, the key that unlocks, the fire that burns away the fog, the helm that steers you from the prison of echoes to the freedom of your own mind. It is this. You become what you think about most of the time. Speak these words, my friends, and let them take root in your soul. Write them down, as you would a sacred vow, in the quiet of your chamber, by the light of a candle, on a page that will become the cornerstone of your rebirth. Repeat them each dawn, each dusk, until they echo in your mind like the chime of a bell, until they guide your thoughts like a constellation, until they light your path like a fire, until they forge your destiny like a hammer on an anvil. These are not mere words, my friends. They are a law, a principle, a truth as eternal as the tides, as unyielding as the forge, as radiant as the star, as enduring as the garden, as boundless as the river. They are the key to reprogramming your mind, to reclaiming your soul, to planting the seeds of freedom, to forging a life that is yours. Plant these words in the fertile soil of your mind. Water them with faith. Nurture them with action. Light them with courage. Forge them with purpose. And watch as your life transforms into a garden of purpose, a fortress of freedom, a river of creation, a fire that no darkness can extinguish. Picture the farmer, his fields once barren, his hands once heavy with the weight of routine, his heart once dim with the shadow of repetition. He hears this truth, perhaps from a broadcast like this, and he writes it down. You become what you think about most of the time. It stirs him, like a wind lifting a seed, like a spark in dry tinder. He begins to think not of limitation, but of abundance, of a garden that feeds not just his village, but his soul. Each day he repeats the words. Each seed he plants with care. Each furrow he shapes with purpose. And in time, his fields become a testament, his harvest a triumph, his name a whisper in every home, his life a garden that blooms with richness, a fire kindled by the power of his thoughts. Picture the blacksmith, his forge once cold, his hands once idle, his heart once heavy with the weight of conformity. He hears these words from a fellow craftsman, and they resonate, like the toll of a bell, like starlight breaking through the fog. He writes them down, he repeats them, and begins to think not of simple tools, but of mastery, of creations that inspire, of a life that endures. Each strike he makes, each tool he shapes, becomes a step toward greatness, and his forge becomes a sanctuary, his work a fire that burns through time, his life a forge that no echo can bind. Picture the poet, her pen still, her dreams alive in silence, that were once buried beneath the weight of others' voices. She hears these words from a mentor, and they ignite her, like a hammer striking an anvil, like a tide turning. She writes them down, she repeats them, and begins to think, not of pleasing the crowd, but of truth, of verses that awaken, of a legacy that shines. Her lines become a beacon, her life a garden that blooms for centuries, her soul a fire that no darkness can quench. Picture the sailor, his ship once tethered, his heart once heavy with the weight of uncharted dreams. He hears these words by a campfire, and they awaken him, like a spark in dry grass, like a river breaking through stone. He writes them down, he repeats them, and begins to think, not of safe harbors, but of uncharted seas, of courage that charts new worlds, of a legacy that guides others. His voyages become a testament, his life a constellation, his legacy a fire that no storm can extinguish. These stories, my friends, are the lives of those who heard these words, who spoke them, who lived them, who sowed them, who forged them. They are the men and women who awoke, who spoke different thoughts and became different people, who reclaimed their minds, who planted the garden, who kindled the fire, who steer by their own stars. Speak these words, my friends, and let them be your guide. Let them be the helm that steers your thoughts, for your thoughts are your freedom. Your thoughts sow your garden. Your thoughts kindle your fire. Your thoughts forge your destiny. Your thoughts guide your river to the sea. As I said in The Strangest Secret, the architect of a universe didn't build a stairway leading nowhere. Think of what you desire, not what you fear. Picture your life as vividly as a blacksmith sees his forge, as clearly as a sailor sees the stars, as boldly as a farmer sees his fields, as brightly as a fire burns in the night, as enduringly as a garden blooms through seasons, as firmly as a river flows to the sea. And let that vision guide your every step, every action. Begin now with one thought, however small. The farmer does not plant his field in a day. He sows one seed, then another. The blacksmith does not forge a masterpiece in an hour. He strikes one blow, then another. The poet does not write an epic in a breath. She crafts one line, then another. The sailor does not chart a sea in an instant. He steers one course, then another. Your thoughts are the seeds, your actions the water, your faith the sunlight, your courage the hammer, your vision the fire, your purpose the garden, your will the river. Speak the words, live the truth, sow the seed, kindle the fire, forge the path, follow the river, and the freedom will follow. And so, I ask you, listener, will you speak these words that awaken your mind? Will you let them reclaim your soul? Or will you let them fade like a whisper in the fog? If this truth has stirred your heart, join our fellowship. Write to us, share your thoughts, and let us know you're with us by leaving your mark of approval. Let us stand together as those who refuse to drift, as those who choose, as those who live the fire, reborn. Will you choose now to wake up, to reclaim your mind, to plant your garden, or will you let it drift, asleep in the fog of echoes? And now, my friend, we come to you, you who listen in the stillness of this midnight, you who sits alone in your quiet room, the world silent around you, your heart heavy with the weight of who you might become, a lone soul at midnight, just before you choose the path you will take, the life you will live, the legacy you will forge. I speak to you now, as if this were my final message, as if these words were the last I might ever share, as if you stood on the eve of a great journey, ready to step into the destiny that awaits. You are not a shadow, not a cog, not a seed doomed to drift, not a soul destined to echo in the fog of others' thoughts, not a life condemned to repeat. You are a creator, a dreamer, a blacksmith's, a poet, a gardener's, a sailor of your own soul, a force with the power to forge your destiny, to plant your garden, to kindle the fire, to steer your ship, to write your truth, to follow your river to the stars. The truth you have heard tonight is yours to speak, to live, to sow, to forge, to make into thunder, a flame that burns through darkness, a garden that blooms through storms, a river that flows to eternity, a fire that no shadow can dim. Do not let this truth slip away, my friend, like a whisper lost in the night, like a spark that fades in gloom, like a tide that ebbs, like a seed unplanted, like a fire unlit, like a river that never finds its sea. Speak it now, with courage, with faith, with the fire of your soul, with the light of your truth, with the strength of your will, with the power of your purpose, with the glow of your dreams. Plant the seed, kindle the forge, steer your ship, forge your path, Write your truth, follow your river, and let the world marvel at what you become. Your life is a forge, not a mirror, a river, not a chain, a fire, not a flicker, a garden, not a weed, a constellation, not a shadow. Will you strike the spark tonight? Will you plant the seed now? Will you steer your course? This is Earl Nightingale, speaking to you now not with farewell, but with a new dawn, a call to awaken, a new life to begin, a garden to plant, a fire to kindle, a river to sail. If this message has stirred your soul, if it has awakened the creator within you, the dreamer within you, the sailor within you, then you join our fellowship. Write to us now, share your thoughts, and let us know you're with us by leaving your mark. Together, let us speak the truth that breaks the chains of echoes. Let us live the freedom that awakens the soul. Let us sow the seeds that grow the garden, to kindle the fires that light the path, to follow the rivers that lead to the stars. The choice is yours, my son, my friend, and the moment is now. The mind is not yours a mirror, it is a forge. And tonight, you may strike the first spark.